Hi guys, my name's Jack Ayres. Welcome back to RevAMP. Today we're going to be going through Stage 2, Circuit 1 of the RevAMP program. And this particular RevAMP program is focused on single leg, lower limb amputees. Today is an exercise overview of Circuit 1. Circuit 1 is broken down into two separate parts. We're focusing on the hips, the glutes, the lower body, and then we're focusing on the core, the midsection, the trunk. So we have 4 exercises per circuit. I'm not going to be giving too much information about about the program. If you want to find out details of the program, so repetition, set, how much rest you should be doing, then you need to get in touch with myself at info@jackayres.com or get in touch with Limb Power and find out more about the RevAMP program. So today, this is just an overview of the exercises. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to try is a crab walk. Now, we would have already warmed up during the previous video. Now we're going to do a crab walk. This is the same as the side steps that we did in the warm-up, but this time you're going to need your resistance bands, and you're going to tighten a knot, make it into a loop, and bring the bands in line with the thighs. Now, I suggest with this one is you aim for somewhere between halfway between the hip and the knee. If it's too low down, if you're above knee amputee like myself, I find I don't get enough support or control through my prosthetic limb. So I like it a little bit higher up. I sometimes just pull the shorts up so it sits over my prosthetic and it sits nice and reasonably tight. Still got a little bit of resistance there, a little bit of slack. Start with your feet shoulder width apart. Take a nice big step to the side and back together. So just like our side steps, but this time we're calling it a crab walk, and we're doing it with a resistance band. So you're keeping that control through your residual limb, driving out. You should feel this really start to work through the glutes. To make this one harder, what we can do is we can squat down. So you're stepping together and apart, you're trying to keep those legs bent and apart, okay? Obviously, to make it harder again, you can add more resistance bands or increase the resistance. If you want to try slightly lower, then you could do that as well. This will definitely work for a lower leg amputee. So that is our first exercise, crab walks. Our next exercise, you're going to use a resistance band again, but this time you're going to lie onto the floor. We are going for a glute bridge. So same position again, in the middle of the thighs, lying on the floor. This time knees shoulder width or hip width apart, driving those out, pushing those hips off the ground and back down. Drive them off and back down. When you think about pressing through your heels, your toes are quite soft. Drive through those heels and you don't let that leg, turn around so you can see here, you don't let your knee roll in at all. You want to keep that leg pressed out. Keep that residual limb and that hip active, driving up and back down. As soon as you touch, straight back up. You can also, with this one, add perhaps a stool underneath your feet, and this will give you a little bit of extra range of motion. Our next exercise, we're going back onto a chair squat. For those of you who've been following this program, we've been doing chair squats in the previous exercise, or the previous circuit. So before I suggested we had another chair in front of us, or somebody assist you in helping you up, or I suggested that you could perhaps use your arms as a little bit of assistance. This time I want you to challenge yourself a little bit more. This is a great exercise, really good for working on your balance, really good at working on your control through your residual limb. Hands across the shoulders. This stops any motion, any momentum, any assistance. Hands across the shoulders, keeping that chest nice and tall. Drive through your heels, stand all the way up and back down. As soon as you touch, straight back up. Now, if we've already been doing this, I suggest we start to work with a little bit of weight. Okay, so this here is just a 6 kilogram dumbbell. Use whatever you got, even if it's a 2-litre bottle. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold it onto the chest, stand yourself all the way up and back down. Up and down. Okay, so that's your chest squat. Our last exercise of this circuit for hips, chair kickbacks. So we're going to get into a press up position where you put your hands underneath your shoulders. Your core wants to be engaged You want to keep it nice. One leg directly underneath the hips and enough space behind you to kick the other leg back. Back in, touch the floor, and kick it all the way back out. Kick it all the way back out. Now you notice I'm not twisting my back like this, I'm keeping my core engaged, especially when it comes onto this side here, squeezing through that residual limb, squeezing through those glutes that we've just activated and worked for those last couple of exercises. Really try and drive it back as soon as you touch that floor and back up. Now we have an option here of doing it with a resistance band, where we can go resistance bands around our legs. We can hold this position and we can kick the leg back and back in. And that's going to add a little bit of extra resistance. With the resistance bands, guys, you can see that I'm using a black one here. This is probably the hardest, the most resistance. You can also get a red one, a green one, or a yellow one, and they are slightly less resistant. So particularly for this exercise here, as you can see, I was twisted perhaps a little bit just because of the resistance of this. I would suggest using a slightly lighter band if you're going to go with the resistance band option on the kickbacks. Okay, so guys, that is exercise 1 to 4, focusing on the hips. We're then going to move on to 1 to 4, focusing on the core. Let's get this chair out of the way. Our first exercise is high leg crunch. So the classic crunch is what we've been doing before. Classic crunch is just rolling those shoulders off. So if you've been following the program, you know that's been one of our exercises. This time we're doing it with our legs in the air. So you can either have your feet together or you can cross them. I prefer to cross them, just gives them a bit more control. Or you can, if you've got the option, you can lock your leg out straight as well. Okay, I'm going to cross my legs for this. It's the same as the classic crunch, but this time your legs are in the air. You will find this slightly harder, and what this is doing, you're just activating through your lower trunk as well as controlling through the upper trunk. So you've just added a little bit of extra resistance, a little bit of extra challenge, just going through these high leg crunches. Okay? Our next exercise is a side plank with a hip pulse. So now we're focusing on our obliques or our sides. We're going to get into a side plank where feet on top of each other, elbow directly underneath the shoulder, and you're going to try and hold this position here. Now, if this is challenging enough and you feel like your balance is all over the place, then I suggest we just hold the side plank if you've never done a side plank before, or you can put your feet so they are next to each other instead of stacked, and this might just give you a little bit of extra, a wider base, a little bit of extra support, okay? But what I want you to aim for is elbow underneath the shoulder, feet stacked, hips stacked on top of each other. You're going to drop that hip down and back up, down and back up. So we're going for hip pulses in a side plank position. Okay. Once you've done the amount of repetitions that are programmed, we're then going to turn onto the other side and exactly the same again, dropping that hip down and back up, down and back up. Okay, guys. Excellent. So that is exercise number 2. Our second exercise, number 3 is dorsal rays. Now, dorsal rays helps to work on our lower back. We're going to feel a little bit through the glutes on this one as well, because I'm going to ask you to activate your bum, activate your glutes, squeeze your bum as we curl up. So hands up to your head, roll the shoulders off, and think about squeezing your bum together. Okay, so it's quite a small, it's quite a subtle movement. It's not huge range of motion. If you find that too hard, or if you're getting too much pain for your lower back, we can make it slightly easier by hands by our sides and just roll those shoulders off. Or if you find that too easy, we can go really hard with hands above your head, like Superman, up to the top and back down. Remember to keep squeezing your bum as you curl up. Okay, that is exercise number 3. And the very last exercise is a straight arm plank. So in the past, again, if you've been following this program, we would run a plank on our arms, on our elbows. This time, what we're going to do, straight arm plank. Okay, you're going to feel a little bit more through the shoulders, and it gives you a little bit more activation through your hips. So in the straight arm position, think about tucking your tailbone in. So instead of hanging out like this, you can see my back has a big sag in it. My belly is now almost touching the floor. Think about tucking that tailbone in, and pushing those hips forwards, and almost driving your hands towards your stomach. So squeeze back and hips forwards. little bit of extra activation, and just hold that there. And of course, guys, as always, remembering to breathe. Okay, guys, so that is 1 to 4, focusing on the hips, and then 1 to 4, focusing on the core of the RevAMP program. This is section 2, and it's the first circuit. Okay, guys, look out for the other videos for more information.